Hey everyone, Mr. Harvey here. Let's continue our lecture on the French Revolution, and we are going to be talking today about the aftermath. We're going to be talking about how Europe really recovers and how Europe really reacts to the ending of the French Revolution and the Napoleonic Wars. So let's get into it. So we're going to see peace, okay, ladies and gentlemen, and we're not going to see a major European conflict until World War I, ladies and gentlemen. So it's going to be about 100 years. We will see a war. It'll be really not an explosive war like we saw with the Napoleonic Wars. It'll be the Crimean War, and we'll talk a little about that. But we're not going to see just an all-out battle, an all-out European just explosion of violence until World War I. So we're going to see peace, and there's going to be a lot of changes in the 1800s because of the Napoleonic Wars. So let's really focus on the effects and how Europe reacts to the Napoleonic Wars. Okay, so we're going to see a peace treaty. It's not too important for us, ladies and gentlemen, but this peace treaty, what is important about this is it's showing how Europe is going to react. And there's one word that really defines how Europe is going to react to the Napoleonic Wars, to the French Revolution, and it is conservatism. Let's make sure we highlight that. We write that down, and I'm going to be talking about that more in Chapter 12, and this is really kind of foreshadowing Chapter 12, ladies and gentlemen. So a lot of what we're going to be hearing today, I will be talking about in greater depth and detail in Chapter 12. But we're going to be seeing, ladies and gentlemen, conservatism. One of the first things that we're going to be seeing is Britain restore the Bourbons to the throne. And what I mean by conservatism, ladies and gentlemen, is anti-Enlightenment ideas, anti-liberalism. Okay, so we're going to see Europe try to remake itself to how it was before this revolution. And this is the conservatism, how you can think about it is it's anti-enlightenment, anti-revolutionary. So, a monarch, strong nobles, established churches, privilege for nobles, socio-economic and political inequities. A lot of what started the French Revolution, Europe is going to try to, in France and in other countries, we're going to see other countries really try to embody that conservatism, because their big argument is that we're going to be seeing, ladies and gentlemen, is if liberalism in the Enlightenment is so good, how did it work out for Europe with liberalism in the Enlightenment and the Napoleonic Wars and the French Revolution? It was violent, it was bloody, it was just obliterated Europe. If it was so good, why did it lead to all this violence and catastrophe, this terrible catastrophe? So that's going to be the big argument for conservatism. They're like, if it worked, then we don't necessarily want it, all right, because it just led to a whole bunch of violence. So we're going to see, ladies and gentlemen, one of the first things is the restoration, and we're going to see with this peace, Britain restore the Bourbons to the throne. France is going to be forced to surrender territories to its frontiers of 1792, and we're going to see, ladies and gentlemen, Louis the 18th take the throne, and this is Louis the 16th's brother, the son of Louis the 16th. Louis the 17th, he died in prison. So we're a new monarch we have after the fall of Napoleon will be Louis the 18th, and so the Bourbons are back on the throne. Okay, the Bourbons are back on the throne. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit about that government a little bit later. Okay, and we're gonna see a quadruple alliance of Russia, Britain, Prussia, and Austria. Okay, are going to agree to form an alliance to preserve this settlement that they're going to be agreeing on. And I'll be talking about this Congress of Vienna and the settlement, okay? But they have a brand new policy, ladies and gentlemen, and their new policy is they're trying to prevent war. What a concept, okay? And it's not really going to work because we're going to have, two mega world wars in the next century and a half. But they have a policy of trying to prevent war, and it's not necessarily going to work out very well, but they want to try to prevent war. And think about it, they've been at war constantly since almost the inception of the French Revolution. Okay, they've been at war for quite a long time. Okay, so they are really trying to prevent war, and that's going to be really important within the Congress of Vienna and this peace settlement. Okay, so let's talk about the Congress of Vienna, and let's make sure we highlight this. We have this in our notes. Very important, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be really important for trying to really facilitate policy and reshape Europe after the Napoleonic Wars. Okay, so this is a conservative movement, aka strong monarchs, okay, strong nobility, a strong aristocracy, established churches, okay, showing the inequity between people, privileges for certain people versus other groups, right? A lot of that ancien regime, they're trying to bring it back. So this is conservative, all right? And it's going to represent the major powers of Europe, including France, okay? And it meant to redraw the territorial lines to try and restore that social and political order of the ancien regime that I talked about. And so this is, ladies and gentlemen, a reaction, okay? And the Congress of Vienna is a reaction, an anti-liberal, anti-revolutionary, anti-Enlightenment reaction. And so they are reacting against the Enlightenment and the French Revolution, and the liberalism that we've been seeing in France, and also that has now spread throughout Europe. Okay, and their argument is, if this Enlightenment and all this liberalism and all this revolutionary sentiment was so good, why did it lead to Napoleon? Why did it lead to this destruction of Europe and all these people dead? Okay, and that's their argument. Clearly, conservatives are going to say clearly it doesn't work because it led to Napoleon and it just obliterated Europe. All right, so that's really their argument. All right, and the goal of the Congress of Vienna is it wanted to prevent another nightmare, okay, another Napoleonic nightmare, and create a lasting peace and prevent war. It's not really going to work out that well. Okay, it's not really going to work out that well. All right, so the big four countries, let's talk about each, ladies and gentlemen, and the most conservative country that we need to know, okay, and the country that wants to preserve the status quo, preserve the ancien regime, the old ways, is Austria. And we'll talk about why. And it's basically because they're a multinational empire. They don't want liberalism, they don't want revolution, they don't want nationalism, because if that happens, well, their empire is going to be completely split apart, because they have a whole bunch of nationalities within their empire, right? Czechs, Poles, Germans, Slavs, okay, Ukrainian. They have a ton of different ethnic groups in their empire, and they are very fearful of liberalism, revolution, and nationalism. Okay, and the person who really embodies this conservatism of the 1800s, post-Napoleonic Europe, is Metternich. We got to know Metternich. Make sure you highlight him, circle him. He embodies this conservatism. Very important, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, and he's going to be opposed to anything liberal, anything Enlightenment, anything revolutionary, and anything also nationalistic. Okay, nationalism as well, and we'll get into nationalism. Okay, England will be a part of this as well, ladies and gentlemen. And Lord Castlereagh, he represented England. And England was more worried about French aggression. Now, the irony here is, ladies and gentlemen, is that the country who's going to end up being very aggressive out of this is not necessarily France, but we're going to see Germany soon. Okay, Germany, a united Germany is coming. But England was very worried about French aggression. A French army rampaging throughout Europe again. And so they wanted to surround France with larger and stronger states to act as buffers, just in case France ever kind of gets out of control again. Prussia, they are represented by Hardenberg, and they wanted territory. Okay, they wanted to regain their lost territory, and they wanted additional territory in northern Germany. And Russia, ladies and gentlemen, Tsar Alexander I, he represented Russia, and he wanted all of Poland under his control. So each country kind of wants a little bit, a certain thing, a certain outcome for their benefit. Okay, Austria, they want to make sure that there is no liberalism, no nationalism in Europe. England wants to make sure that France does not get aggressive again. They have to step in and kind of interrupt their economic growth. Prussia wants territory, and Russia wants territory as well. Okay, so let's talk about the main principles of the Congress of Vienna and this congressional system that we're going to be talking about. Okay, and their main four principles were legitimacy, compensation, and the balance of power. Okay, so legitimacy. This is returning to power the ruling families who have been deposed or kind of thrown out by the revolution. And so we're going to start seeing monarchs restored in parts of Italy. We're going to see the Bourbon monarchy restored in France, in Spain, in Naples. Okay, the papal states are going to be returned to the Pope. All right, so very conservative, right? Restoring these traditional monarchies and giving these established churches, the Catholic Church, more power. Okay, compensation. All right, this meant rewarding territory to those states which had made considerable sacrifices. Okay, and so we're going to see a lot of important territories switch hands. Great Britain is going to receive naval bases, Malta, Ceylon, and the Cape of Good Hope. All right, Austria is going to have territory in northern Italy, Lombardy, Poland, and in the Adriatic area. Russia is going to gain most of Poland, Finland, and some territory in the western Ukraine. Prussia is going to receive the Rhineland in the west, okay, part of western Germany, parts of Saxony, and parts of Poland as well. And Sweden is going to receive Norway. So we're going to see some countries, Austria, Russia, Prussia, Great Britain, receive a lot of territorial compensation for fighting in the war. And this is really important. I would say a couple of really important points are right here, ladies and gentlemen, that I want to make note is Great Britain receiving these naval bases to further their trading empire. Austria receiving Italy. We're going to see that be a very contentious point. The Italians are going to want that territory back, especially when they want to unify with Count Kuvar. All right. And Russia and Prussia taking parts of Poland. Okay, we're going to see that, ladies and gentlemen, play a huge part, especially after World War I, when Poland is kind of brought back and all that territory is returned, especially after the Russian Revolution and the Treaty of Versailles. So the map has changed, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to look at the map, okay, in a second. All right. Now, the balance of power is also very important as well, and this is going to arrange the map of Europe so that never again could one state upset the international order and cause a general war. Well, they're forgetting, ladies and gentlemen, or they don't know yet that the state that they're not really taking into consideration is Germany. Germany is getting ready to unite, and that's the state that's going to really upset the international order and really change things, okay? And little do they know that German nationalism is on the rise, and Germany is, about 50 years away, 40 years away from unifying, okay, and getting ready to unify. So they're going to encircle France with more powerful states to prevent French aggression. One of the ways they're going to do that is they're going to strengthen the Netherlands. They're going to unite the Austrian Netherlands, Belgium, and the Northern Netherlands, okay, to form this kingdom of the United Netherlands north of France to kind of create a super Netherlands. All right, so just in case France gets ever aggressive, the Netherlands will be able to kind of stall them and fight back. Okay, Prussia is going to receive the Rhineland, which is very close to the border of France. Strengthens Prussia, gives them also a greater geographical advantage to be able to kind of fight back against the French. All right, and we're also going to see Sardinia and Piedmont will have their territory restored with territory in Genoa, and we'll take a look at that, ladies and gentlemen, to be a buffer state, kind of right by Italy against France. Okay, so if France, ever revolts or ever gets, kind of out of control again, they're going to have territory and able to fight back against the French. Okay, this is also, ladies and gentlemen, going to officially represent the end of the Habsburg Holy Roman Empire. It is officially gone. Okay, it's now completely acknowledged as the Austrian Empire. But what's something really important for us, and I've been kind of alluding to it, ladies and gentlemen, is going to maintain for the most part Napoleon's reorganization of the German states. Okay, that Confederation of the Rhine. Very important for us, ladies and gentlemen, because we know that took 300 German states, made it into 15, way more organized, way more consolidated. That's going to be really important for OVB, Otto von Bismarck, when and Prussia unite Germany. Okay, so let's take a look at the map, ladies and gentlemen, and we can see the map has changed. All right, let's take a look at some of the important buffer states. So you now have like a super Netherlands right here, a northern Netherlands united with a Belgium, a southern Netherlands. Okay, so the super Netherlands, this buffer state right here. We have Piedmont, Sardinia, this buffer state right here against France. Here's the Rhineland right here for Prussia, and we can see, ladies and gentlemen, actually with this outline, ladies and gentlemen, of the German Empire. You can see it right here. It's all this green. Eventually, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be right here, the German Empire. And we're going to see eventually all these states be united under Prussia. Okay, you have the Austrian Empire, and you can see they've taken some territory in northern Italy. They still have territory right here amongst the Balkans. Okay, territory in the Germanic states, territory in Poland. We see Prussia having territory in Poland, Russia having territory in Poland. Okay, so the map has changed, and this is a really important map for us to understand, ladies and gentlemen, and know. Okay, a very important map for us to know. All right, this is the map of post-Napoleonic Europe. Okay, so the map has changed, and you can see that the big next change that's going to come up is the unification of Germany. You can see it right here. Okay, there it is in that green. Very important for us. Okay, let's talk about the implications of the Congress of Vienna, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, the Congress is going to achieve its goals. Okay, it's going to restore and facilitate a huge resurgence of conservatism throughout Europe, and we're going to talk more about that. So, established monarchs, the Bourbons are back. Okay, powerful established churches as well. giving those nobles and clergy privilege. Okay. However, the Congress of Vienna and conservatism is going to ignore the forces of liberalism and nationalism, and we're going to see in the 1800s, in the 19th century, a huge clash between liberalism and nationalism, and we are going to see a lot of these isms kind of fighting amongst one another in the 1800s, and that's going to give rise to new countries. We're going to see a lots more revolution, okay? We're going to see conservative reactions, liberal reactions, okay? We're going to be talking more about that in the 1800s, okay? Let's evaluate Napoleon's rule, ladies and gentlemen, okay? Napoleon, ladies and gentlemen, is considered the first egalitarian dictator of modern times for the most part, okay? He had a lot of positive achievements. He kept a lot of the changes of the revolution permanent, his Napoleonic Code, okay? But we also know, in talking about him, right, that he was also very anti-revolutionary, all right? Very, very important for us to understand. He's going to keep many of those achievements gained from the revolution in France permanent. He's going to spread a lot of the revolutionary ideas and achievements of the French Revolution throughout Europe, Austria, Prussia. We're going to see him in Italy. We're going to see him in Spain, in Russia as well. And he also thoroughly organized and centralized the French government, ladies and gentlemen. All right. However, really important for us to remember, ladies and gentlemen, that there were some severe liabilities with Napoleon's rule and some anti-revolutionary notions, right? His oppression of many populations throughout Europe. He repressed individual liberties amongst women, right? He ruled as a dictator. He silenced his political opponents. He spied on the people. He didn't allow for freedom of speech. He didn't allow for freedom of the press. So it's really important for us when we evaluate Napoleon, and we talked about this before, ladies and gentlemen, is that there were notions of Napoleon that were revolutionary and notions of Napoleon that were anti-revolutionary, and you should be familiar with each of those, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? And let's evaluate the French Revolution on the whole, ladies and gentlemen, and this is really important. Europe has changed now forever. All right, Europe has been changed. All right, the old system has been just completely obliterated and destroyed, and replaced with a more modern liberal system based on the ideas of equality for some, ability, and law. Okay, we saw, especially in France, the separation of church and state. Right? We saw that with de-Christianization. We saw that with the civil constitution of the clergy. Okay, we saw France really trying to separate church and state. It's going to lay the foundations for a more modern nation state, and we're about to start seeing that, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to see brand new countries, okay, new advanced countries that are very modern socially, economically, and politically. Okay, however, ladies and gentlemen, on the whole, many historians, consider the French Revolution to be a failure. All right, they simply, replaced their monarch, Louis the 16th, with the dictator Napoleon. France is gonna after Napoleon, they're gonna have a restoration of the Bourbon monarchy, and then also, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna see France revolt a couple more times, and there's gonna be, there's gonna be a lot of uneasiness and kind of instability in France. And what's important to understand about France, especially, ladies and gentlemen, is France has reached the apex of its power. It's about to kind of go a little on a decline. Okay, and the new power of Central Europe that's gonna rise is Germany. Okay, Germany. And France's worst fears are going to be realized when Germany completely unites, and we'll see that come to fruition with the Franco-Prussian War, and especially in World War I, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so that's it for the French Revolution, ladies and gentlemen. I have one more lecture on Romanticism, which I will put up tomorrow. Thank you so much.